Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hollywood Times live interview segment. I have the pleasure of interviewing one of my favorite humans on the planet, Natasha Neece. She's going to tell you about her upcoming book, Rise Up and Rock. It releases April 7th. We're going to have a really fun conversation. I met this woman like months ago and had the pleasure of being able to utilize this platform to amplify her story. So we're super excited to talk to her today. Please help in joining me and welcoming Natasha Neece to the stage. Hi, Tasha. Can I call you Tasha? Is that allowed? I should know this at this
Mm-mm.
point.
No, I don't like
No,
that. You
I
can get
appreciate the
Tosh.
clarity.
Tosh is okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair. That's how I feel about the accent on my name. When they're like, "Do I have to put the accent?" I'm like, "Yeah, you have to put the accent. My mama gave it to me, so I respect that and honor that." All right. Well, welcome. How you feeling? I'm so excited to have you with us today.
I'm so
Um,
honored. I feel really happy. Um, yeah, I'm just stoked to talk with you at any time, but especially, when we're doing something collaborative like this, it just feels really good.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do, right? Help give a voice to each other and support each other. I remember like I was saying this in a group chat when looking into this coverage. I was like, there's nothing like having a Led Zeppelin cover band be done by a woman. Like this is a story people are going to want to hear. So before we launch into the questions, I want you to just introduce yourself to our audience. Let us know a little bit about who you are as like a human on this planet.
Mm. Okay. Well, I'm Natasha Neece. I am a mother of two adult sons that are in their 30s. I reinvented myself after motherhood in my 50s, and I decided I was going to get back into singing, which I did in my 20s and 30s, and just fell in love with the idea of a Led Zeppelin tribute. I really loved just embodying the mythos of it, the whole vibration of freedom and just the full spectrum of human experience that Robert Plant brings forth, and just the sexiness and the whole thing. So I had a lot of fun with that. It was actually very intense in a lot of ways, a lot of personal growth, and that's why I wrote the book, Rise Up and Rock: A Front Woman's Journey.
I love it. And tell our audience it's scrolling at the bottom, but I want to hear it from your own voice. And now announce when this legendary book is hitting the stage.
It is meant to be available on Amazon April 7th. I believe that I'm actually going to make that deadline. I've been working really hard on it. I keep thinking of more and more things, and more layers keep unfolding as I edit it, which is really amazing. Yeah, it's going to be on ebook, black and white paperback, and full color hardback. And it's a little over 500 pages, 56 chapters, and about 200 photos, show photos and behind the scenes photos.
So you haven't been busy putting this together. It's just
It was
little
so much to
little
organize.
chapter, but little essay. Right. Wow, it's amazing. I mean, that's a perfect segue to our first question, or my first question for you is, when did you know like this needed to become a book?
Well, I started writing it down after 6 years. I was like, I really need to put this down, step back from a dynamic that was really triggering me to really look at myself. And so I started really journaling and wanted to document everything, because so much happened. Like in 6 years, there was like, it was action packed, like no time for any boredom happening there. So I wanted to document it. So simply I wouldn't forget it. And a
Mm.
few, like a little ways in, I was like, this is actually a really intense drama filled thing with all kinds of important threads coming through it. It wasn't just a band story, it was a human story. It was like a clip of time that was so rich with so much that all of us go through, whether
Mm.
we're in creative endeavors or just basically communication, largely between men and women. Because
Mm.
I was the founder, the leader, the front woman, the booking agent, the director, the promoter, the artist behind the marketing, the everything, and the rest of the band were men. And that really lended itself to a lot of drama.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, it's one of my one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to hearing this story is my curiosity, right, of slipping into that role, and also like what was the level of like surrender by the men to sort of allow for female leadership. I think that there's still that sort of indoctrinated training in our society to not listen to the female voice. Like Meryl Streep once famously said that we have to learn how to speak men, but men don't need to learn how to speak women. And like what that must have been incredible. But I love quickly before we get into the next question, what I think is so important about this story is that I think artists in general, we can be a caricature, and you hear something like a cover band and you don't see the complexity of the humanity behind that story. And so I think that's why this story is so important, is this isn't just somebody covering a band. There's a whole layered dimensional story and human beings behind this. So I think I'm excited for the world to see this.
I
So
have to
how did
say, Renee, I have to say,
go?
a cover band is a band that does lots of different artists.
Got it.
But
Okay.
a
Yes.
tribute band is a band that does one artist. And so
I
we're a
appreciate
tribute.
that correction. Okay, you guys heard that here. This is why Natasha does that, and I'm not. Okay, so a cover band covers multiple different artists. A tribute band is a tribute to that particular artist. Okay, I stand corrected. Perfect. Thank you for that.
All
Um,
good.
we'll take care of that in post, Natasha. Um, so please, tell us more about like how stepping into that golden god archetype type like shifted your understanding of this whole role of like power and identity,
Ooh, and Robert Plant is a golden god.
right?
Mm. And I studied him like scripture.
A little crush worthy. I'm gayer than a box of rainbows, and he's still crush worthy, right?
Oh, he is.
Can I say that? I said it.
Yeah.
There we go.
No, he's just a phenomenal man, still very much a
Mm,
phenomenal man. And as a young man, um, just unbelievably emotional and like evocative and very like he had a frequency. All artists, everyone has a frequency, and stepping into his particular artistic expression frequency was something that felt actually very natural to me, which is why I decided to do a tribute for Led Zeppelin on stage. Being like just really expressing and embodying freedom and unapologetic boldness and
yeah.
sensuality and all these things that I felt. I've always felt that I can be more myself when I'm on stage than when I'm off stage. There's like I have
I
a
feel
lot of
that.
energy and a lot of passion, and to channel that through Robert Plant's music was just ecstatic. It was so healing, and it was just, I loved it.
It's almost like you become a messenger, right, to the artist as opposed to like it's like out of body. Is it kind of like that?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that I was channeling him, although I studied every note and every nuance and every bend and every off placement timing and everything like that because he was so soulful. But um, no, I mean to step into his shoes, it was extremely humbling. I can't say that, um, I certainly wasn't. Um, Doing it justice. I mean, I was in a sense, but he's on a pedestal, but that's a whole nother thing. What surprised me most actually about stepping into that archetype was how it illuminated my lack of confidence off stage with the band members.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really wanted them to like me and
Mm,
respect me. And there's so much about like inspiring each of us in the band. When band members inspire each other, that's what creates the chemistry of a hot band. When we're inspiring each other and like lighting that
yeah.
fire under each other, and that was really important to me to give to the guys. And so in some ways, I put too much emphasis on whether they liked me or believed in me or respected me or, these kinds of things,
Mhm.
respected me as a leader. And so I often kind of gave my power away as a leader, which is a lot of what the book is about, because I wanted them to like me.
Mhm.
And so there was a confidence piece off stage with them, that was different than on stage. And so, to embody that in both places, that's the goal, and a lot of what I really learned from stepping into that
Yeah.
God archetype.
That makes sense. That makes sense, and that it's I'm sure that kind of answers that question of what surprised you about like kind of stepping into a space that really wasn't built for you. Is that, I mean, that kind of answers that question, right? That the surprise of what happened once you stepped off that stage.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with me internally. But
Mm.
what really surprised me about leading in a space that wasn't built for me, the boys' club of rock and roll,
Right. Yeah.
that's a real thing. Was we all know that men and women and the masculine and feminine, whether men and women or not, but masculine and feminine, we think differently. I think probably the genders are actually wired differently in their brain. I'm not sure about the difference in that kind of thing. I mean, certainly environmentally and
Mhm.
culturally, where we communicate differently. And the
That
guy,
makes sense to me, and anticipating, right? I mean, I interject here because I'm assuming to put all of these pieces together, I feel like women have a very anticipatory energy, especially because we mother, and men don't anticipate. They're very single minded. I could be overgeneralizing, but in my personal observation,
yeah.
take it with a grain of salt. I find women anticipate much more than men. So that must be
Mhm.
very different to, because I feel you can't really fly by the seat of your pants when you're pursuing something like this, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to think about that a little bit. One thing I can say though is like the guys would speak to each other in a way that, like really blunt or sharp or kind of critical, or like, hey dude, can you like turn that down, or like, and if I had spoken to them and said the exact same thing that a guy said, that it would have been a total explosion, or they would have gone passive aggressive or quit, or I mean, it was very different in the way that men could speak the same thing that I would want to speak, and the way that it would just be completely different,
Wow.
received completely differently. Yeah, that was a thing. But yeah, there was a lot of things. I think having the different genders working together,
Mhm.
it was a perfect and very complex environment for us to trigger each other's wounds and patterns.
Yeah, I'm interested to know more about that because as, in full transparency as a queer woman, like I date women, I have all sisters, I grew up with a single mom, like men haven't really been in my experience, but yet I'm riveted, and the older I get, and I realize the importance of masculine and feminine energies and how both are needed. It is I am in awe of women that interact with men in creative spaces. Like I can't quite wrap my brain around how that all works. So I'm just so intrigued to hear about like what was that impetus, and this is, your baby, and working with men and how to like find you very much have a hero's journey. I want to hear more about the hero's journey part of this for you.
Uh, Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah. Just to speak to the creative, artistic aspect of working with men, when you mix like art, which everyone sees differently, and
Mhm.
creativity, and teamwork, and communication, and business, and money, and time, and travel, and all these things, it becomes very, 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 very potent environment for personal growth if you have the willingness and the courage to do it. It takes
Mm,
a lot of courage for us to face our wounds,
mm,
but otherwise they'll just keep self-sabotaging us. So might as well. And that has everything to do with the hero's journey. Um, yeah, wow. It- yeah, I mean, as far as the descent, like going down into it, that started happening right as soon as I started giving my power away.
ooh,
It was a slippery slope to like stay quiet, and when I wanted to say something, or um yeah, just give the reins over to someone else and have things done not quite as I wanted, and then feel resentment, and then little, pass the tension, and um yeah, that was definitely the beginning of the descent for me, and
Mhm.
led to an underworld experience that was harrowing, absolutely unbelievable.
Can you give us just like a little mini teaser without just to sort of entice the story, but also kind
Mhm.
to kind of give us a
Yeah.
template of.
Well, I had a real spirit of excellence. I wanted everything that we did to be really, really extraordinary. Otherwise, I really didn't want to be a part of it. And
Mhm.
so I called that forth in the guys. And if they weren't able to do that, if they weren't willing, they were all musically capable. But in other ways, I had to fire guys. And sometimes well, usually they would come back with a lot of slander and a lot of lies to protect
Mm.
their egos. And there got to be a point after I had fired several guys. I mean, there was a lot of that's a lot of what the drama is like these all these different guys coming through this this band. Um, there was a public takedown and lies, and kind of they really attempted to sort of erase my identity, and
Oh,
yeah, it was really gnarly. Yeah,
did they kind of like band together and do this again? So, wow, okay. Which also makes it harder because when you're like ganged up in that way, I imagine that that makes it. Yeah, I didn't realize that it wasn't that you've had some rotation, some like turnaround in there. Do you
oh
are
wow.
have you landed with a group that really like resonates with you now, or is this just this part of the beast?
Now I have lots of different musicians that I could call,
Mm,
but I only want to do shows if I'm invited to do shows. I don't want to hustle shows anymore. Um,
yeah, that's fair.
I, it was really, it got to be a piece around self worth to be trying to sell myself all the time and do everything. And I'm just not willing to do it anymore. Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
moved back to my home in Oregon, as opposed to be in LA and really hustling it. I'm just and again, that's like the ascent up to the return in the hero's journey. Is that I just got really clear on how I wanted to be spending my time and how I wanted to be feeling, and um, yeah, so uh,
Do you think this has to do the part of your feminine leadership is kind of like stepping into that role and being like, These are my needs, and I'm no longer acquiescing to other people's needs"? Like advocating
absolutely.
for your own voice without being, because I feel like sometimes when I advocate for myself, I'm the bitch. But if a guy advocates for himself, he's being assertive,
That's
and
what I'm
the
saying.
labeling is
Yeah,
right. So it's
yeah.
like, how did that, like having that feminine leadership role allow you to finally just step in your power and be like, this is what's happening?
Well, I was kind of forced into it, because it just got to be so intolerable that I realized that I had to really step away and really look at why I was attracting this. Like, I believe in the law of attraction, and I knew that I was attracting these things into my experience to learn from them. Um, and it really, the reflections were just all about self respect. Like, I need to respect myself enough to care about how I feel, which also includes having fun along the way. Like
Yeah.
enjoying the journey, not being so stressed out about my performance, my harsh inner critic, the guys, the shows, the money, the this and that. Just we're here to enjoy the journey. You know, and to be working our asses off
Mhm.
to you know accomplish these outer world things. It's thrilling, and I'm very ambitious, actually. But yeah, if we're not enjoying the journey, we're also not attracting that experience to us. So you know
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you feel like I sort of skipped over this before, but it's like we're gravitating back to this conversation of how our spirituality and these higher callings actually speak to us and get like integrated into some of these like egoic parts of our lives, because I find that balance, right? Like how do we pursue this profession and still incorporate our spiritual practice into like the chaos and the conflict of our experience and balancing that? And did the guys resonate with what your spiritual practice was? Did you feel like you could impart where you were, or was that more introspective?
Yeah, no, that those guys, they didn't want to hear about much of any kind of feminine emotion or anything like that. Like, I was close friends with several of them, but yeah, I was very, I would say, emotionally hijacked a lot of the time, which interfered with my spiritual groundedness. But
Mm,
um, I will say that what I always embodied as far as spirituality was compassion. I always had compassion for those fools.
yeah.
Sometimes too much, but no, and compassion for myself. And this kind of goes back to the beginning of what you were just saying about, we were talking about self-respect is self-love. That, and authenticity is a spiritual path.
Yeah, I
And
believe that.
yeah, like for us to really be in touch with ourselves requires discipline. It requires, in my opinion, meditation is a wonderful way to be able to be grounded and really in touch with ourselves and
Mhm.
non-reactive. Because of course, whenever we react, we're going to get more reaction, or if we're triggered, we're giving our power away. So just to be able to be in residence, like not out here trying to figure out what they're doing or what they're thinking or whatever, but just like kind of sit back
Mhm.
on the throne, and just
Oh, I like that. Sit back on the throne.
sit back in your power. And
Yeah,
yeah, and just
just
calm
breathe a
down.
little bit. Yeah. I always say whenever I enter into what feels like a conflict, I always say, Renee, the difference between reacting and responding is 5 breaths. And so I
Mm,
just take 5 breaths so I don't
mm,
get reactionary, because and sometimes it'll parallel, and my reaction and my response will be, and that's when I feel the most spiritually centered, when my
mm,
reaction and my response are actually the same thing. But I do notice that just taking that breath, it allows me to like separate and have my ego be the observer of whatever conflict I'm in, as
yeah,
opposed to like running the show. So I
totally.
think that that is amazing. I mean, why I am curious, like with all of this that has culminated, and now that you're back in Oregon, like why now? Why is this story so critical at this moment in your life?
Well, I, I've gone the full arc. Like I was really in it for a while, and really doing a lot of healing work and introspection and writing and writing and writing. Um, and I could have published the book before Christmas, but I felt like each time I read through it, I was having waves of different kind of understanding and healing. So I just kept going and kept going. And I feel like at this point now, it's really ready to be shared in a way that is not about trying to prove anything or
Mhm.
tell the truth about what really happened, but it's it's um it's something worth sharing. I really feel hope that people can see themselves in some of these struggles, and really also then be able to transform a bit through some of the things that are talked about in here.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing. Um, I have a couple more questions for you. I realize we're rolling up here on 25 minutes, and I'm gonna my editor's gonna have to let me let this fly because Natasha's riveting. But I want to ask you a few more questions before we have to button this up here. But I'm curious to know, like, we don't talk enough about how proud we are of our work. And I think
Mhm.
it's important as women to not have not just have other people amplify our voices, but what are you the most proud of about this whole journey, this product, this project, and putting this out in the world now?
Um, that that's a sweet thing. I appreciate you bringing it back to that. I feel I feel really proud that I had the courage to just start singing again after I hadn't sang for 20 years. To just start singing again and just be like, hey, whatever, I can do it. Like, let's just do this. Let's have fun. And I also am proud that I put everything I had into it
Yeah.
and some, like to a fault. But because of that, I'll never regret, like, oh, if I wish I had done this or I wish I had, practiced more or anything like that. No, I had some discipline and I put everything into it. Um, and I'm really proud too that I up and moved to LA, left my beautiful home, and I was just like, I'm just gonna see. I'm just gonna see. And otherwise, if I hadn't done that, I think I would have always wondered, well,
Hmm.
then maybe Natasha, you should have gone to LA or gotten out of this little small town, like you're such a loser. But now I don't have to worry about that. I did it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I made close friends. Um, and I'm really super stoked that I really carried through with the book. Like I turned it from a lot of journaling into a huge body of work that I feel really proud of, actually. It took a lot of organization, and a lot of time, but I'm pretty stoked on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's impressive to like be able to hold something in your hand and be like, this is my story that can now live in perpetuity, And I think about that. My mother passed last year, and I think a lot about legacy and what we're
Mhm.
procreating beyond our actual children. Like, what are we leaving behind? Is there a part of our story or our voice that will remain beyond our lifetime? And then
Yeah.
that's what I think is so beautiful about putting pen to paper and actually binding this story in a way that we can
Mhm.
give it to the world. So
Yeah.
I'm incredibly proud of you, and man, I'm so inspired too. As a woman in her mid 40s, like now that I'm in my mid 40s, I'm not inspired by this is my experience of the 20 somethings that I'm inspired by the people that reinvent themselves, and we're just given this script that we have to have the whole world figured out by 25, and I'm starting to see that dialogue change. And the older that I get, I feel like stories like yours give me permission to reinvent myself
Oh,
whenever I want
totally.
to, and not be like, I don't have to. I've only been a journalist for 3 years. And even at me, I was like, well, I'm in my 40s. I can't like just start being a journalist. Like I'm a comic and I'm an actor. I thought I had to like decide what I was. And I'm like, I could just use a comma in my bio and just say I'm all these things. Like I could
Yeah.
be all of these things, and like where we stifle ourselves. And I'm like, no one actually gave me a script that said, sorry, when you're stand up for this length of time, you can't get into journalism. And so I hear these stories and I'm just like, how do we undo some of that indoctrination? And I think this story is a perfect example of that from start to finish. So I want to make sure that our audience can continue to support you. So if you could give us some details, how do we find you? How do they get the book, or are there going to be any of that information? Please let me know. I will throw it in a banner here. Make sure that we embed all of that stuff. But give a quick shout out to how we can best reach you beyond this interview.
Hmm. Well, I'm really wanting to be interactive on my YouTube channel, my Natasha Neece YouTube channel, and there will be
It's just your name, YouTube?
Natasha Neece, yeah. And I'm going to start reading the book chapter by chapter in little videos there, so that'll be interesting, and giving lots of commentary. um, yeah, of course, I'm on Instagram, living.loving.led. That was the name of the band. We never even said that. Living, loving, led, like live and love and made. She's just a woman. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's the name of
Living, I'm gonna put this in the banner, living dot period, living dot loving
dot led.
led
Yeah,
dot
is
led.
my Instagram,
Okay.
living.loving.led. And of course, I'm on Facebook, Natasha Neece. And that's probably about it. Yeah.
Okay.
My book's going to be on Amazon. And who knows, maybe some publishers will pick it up. I'll definitely be doing book readings. And that's where you can find the book reading schedules is on those platforms.
Okay, great. And this will live in the embedded video too. We'll take care of that in the post, but I'll make sure that that banner lives there. Natasha, you are such a delight. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to share your story with us. It is so important, I think, in a time of AI and artificially calculated stories. It is so nice to see
Truly.
artists like living their truth. And I'm excited to pick up an actual book where you like flip the pages and like you hold it
Yeah.
and it has weight. Remember when we used to do that with flip pages and bookmarks and stuff? I have a book lamp that I got for Christmas I haven't used. And I'm like, because I don't have any books. Like to put the book lamp, I need a book. So I'm very excited to have your book in the palm of my hand. Um, Thank you for joining us today. Please continue to support Natasha Neece's work. I adore you.
I
I
love
adore
you
you.
too. Thank you.
Thank you.